TCP server. I don't want to do
Yeah.
it. I already know the answer to that. And I gave the answer, stop it and give the answer instead. I think for this one, we will focus on generally these two, AWS MCP and Context 7. Context 7 is one of my favorite, and probably it's one of the most well-known MCP servers out there.
But it also goes through your tokens like no one's business. So I love it as well. But again, I think it's because it's so powerful and it's got so much information that, you know, likes giving you lots of information back.
Yeah. And that is why we have other thing called powers as well in place.
It's a good segue. Good segue to powers.
You opened the door for me, man. Powers have been released just recently, right? During the re:Invent, actually. And powers allow you to give the context to your agents without actually overloading your context window. It is very task focused. For example, if you want to go from design to code, Figma has a couple of rules that it follows, couple of also directions to the agent to build from and go from, which allows it to be efficient as well as following the best practices. We have the
use keywords, right? So powers use keywords. So they're invoked by keywords.
Let me close this one. In here, we don't have it, but like generally they follow keywords. Let's go to this one, for example. Like very recently, I have announced this React best practices thing that I have added. It is not the official one. I just decided to pull this in just as a disclaimer. And
you should write a blog post about it, Salih.
Yeah, I did. It's announced just yesterday.
Oh.
And it is also part of Fullstack, which our good friend from community, Christian Ponso, that have made.
Shout out to Christian. Awesome.
Exactly. Incredible work. So it actually has some keywords that is looking for. And in your questions, when you ask them, it will call this power and enable it so it can ask the right rule, bring the right rules with the right behavior as well. So it doesn't just go and calls it randomly when you create a React application. It will probably do now because I will say create a application with best practices, but it is not, for example, going to React Native one or build a Power one, or if I had like Strands one here, it's not going to call a Strands one as well. They are heavily focused on the purpose than just providing a lot of information.
Okay, right.
Cool.
So basically, we've got MCP servers configured. We've got Kiro Power configured, which is basically your React best practices one.
Exactly. So right now, we will continue with this. I just want to start the process because we will let agent do its trick. And in the meantime, we will discuss some additional context, additional information as well. So first thing that I will do is I will ask it to create a React application with Read. You might be asking why Read, why React? The reason is...
So actually, I'm even thinking, so at this stage, we don't even care it's a game, right? We're just basically saying we want a React front end.
Exactly. Okay, right now, for us, the important point is we want to build a project that is ready to handle web operations, and that's it. All the best practices, all the libraries to use, whatever needs to be done, it will be actually added by right now the power. But if we didn't have the power, we would have asked it to do so as well. For example, when we wanted to do some calls to the API, we can just say, hey, like use fetch libraries, and it would just use the fetch libraries to do HTTP operations. Or there are some other libraries like back then it was called React Query, now it's called Tensor Query, that is doing these operations more purposefully. It has retry logic, it has timeout logic, everything built in that you would provide. So with this kind of additional information, if the power or if the rules, they don't allow you, you should know and you should add these. Let's start.
So I just want to make sure that I understand, because obviously I'm the noob here. I'm trying to learn. Thinking back to when we started talking about what we're building, right? So the fact that we've got, for example, if I look at some of the requirements we had, for example, what we need to be able to run on a 1980 by 1024 screen. We want to make sure that the game is super responsive. There's no lag. We want to make sure that it's like a graphical application. Those don't matter at this stage.
At this stage, it doesn't, because at the end, we also know the vision. We also draw down some sketches and everything. This is not a 3D application. Like, this is something that we know. This is not requiring us to create
Good to know. I've learned something already today.
Yeah.
So basically, irrespective of what you're doing, You start with building the kind of the basic local dev React starter app.
Exactly. So right now, because we are not using something from Blender, right? Like we are not building a 3D game with a big world and so on. That's a completely different story. Right now, we are building, if I dare to call it, we are just building a board game, maybe. It's a simple
not
one.
just a board game, Salih. Come on, think big.
Yeah.
This is going to be not the best board game ever made.
Exactly.
Come on.
For everyone out there, this will be the best thing ever. They will forget about the days that they were thinking happy until they play this game.
Exactly.
So
I already see this taking over the world already.
Yeah, I hope so. Go right to these live streams and tell the story to the people who write a book about us and how show them how it's made.
It all started on this live stream.
Exactly. So I will start with something simple. I will say, I like going from general to specific, like more broad to focused approach with the prompts. I go with my purpose, then I go with a list of items that what I expect.
Okay, Salih, before we start, right?
Yes.
So when you were setting up Kiro, you've shown us some of the things, right? When I start even vibe coding, right? I configure steering documents, right? I configure just one steering document, right? Which is basically how I like to set up my project, right? So for example, what are my naming conventions? What are my directory structure layout? What are my Git command? Oh, you've already got it. Right. Okay.
So mine is different, but I totally forgot about it. Thanks for reminding me that. Okay,
I'm here for.
Yeah. Can you explain that, since you're like, I would say you are the Kiro expert here. So can you explain what is the steering files, what they do?
Yeah. So first of all, scroll up a little bit. So a steering file, okay, is how Kiro effectively takes in kind of information as context, okay, and what you can influence. And the way it does this, you write markdown documents, but more than that, you actually define rules. So here at the top, we've got inclusion always. What this basically means is that every time we ask Kiro to do something, it's going to include this as steering as context, okay? But we can change that. We can, for example, ask it to do a file match, right? So for example, maybe we only want to include it if it's a Python file or a TypeScript file, right? We can also configure it to be manual, right? So that basically we have to specify within the actual IDE chat interface. You've got the little hash sign there, right? Which basically, yeah. So you've got, it's very small text, but it's all right. It's okay. It's not. So you've got all these different models, and this is good because it allows you to have some control. Now, the key thing for me about steering files, Salih, is they should be small, right? Not huge. I think if you go more than about 100 lines, that's when I start to see them being less effective. So break things down into smaller steering files and then let Kiro decide how to manage those in smaller chunks. But yeah, and I use them typically for making sure that Kiro always uses the tools I want it to use. For example, I've recently moved in Python from pip to UV, the directory layout structure that I want to follow, and the frameworks and libraries. So I do Python development. I use Flask, not because it's the best one out there, because Flask happens to be really easy for demos. So you can explain things easily to how other people want.
Mature, right?
Yeah, and it's mature as well, right? So I define that in my steering file, excuse me. And every time Kiro does stuff, I don't have to remind it, right? And so that's the value of steering and steering dials. And there, I think these are one of the things. And again, shout out to Christian Mezzale, the prompts dev tool. You can go there and find some of the
showcase it.
Yeah, let's showcase it. So you can find out various steering files that people are already sharing. But more than that, there's agents, there's powers, there's more. So there's if you go to the top, Salih, steering, click on steering at the top. Here are the steering documents that you can use, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's a quick. We don't want to spend too much on it, but yeah. So you've got the steering documents before you're actually doing Kiro's doing anything. So these are so as a React noob, as a front-end noob, basically these are what you've learned over time, right? As good instructions.
Yeah, like from my side, one thing that I did here, I just dropped everything here because it's 17 line. It's not a lot, but for me, what I had was like, for example, if a project is a React project, I say, make sure npm run builds so we can prevent any compile time errors. Because again, AI is not 100% reliable on building something. Like we have to be
Yeah.
sure that at least the code is compiling.
Yeah.
And the second thing is when you do TypeScript, I come from languages that is welcoming strongly types, and I love strongly typed languages. And when I tell this to the people, especially JavaScript devs, they get angry at me, but I don't know. I just love it. And this any word is your biggest enemy if you're a TypeScript developer.
Right.
So I say when you are generating code, do not use type any at all.
Well,
And of
it's a
course,
hot
like
take
I
from
have,
Salih today.
yeah, I also have the one thing that I don't like about the AI agents is like I understand and I love that they are summarizing their work, but when they create an additional markdown, I don't like it. I
Oh, see,
want
I'm different to you on that. So I tell you why I like multiple markdown documents. Because again, in my experience, they do very poorly with large markdown documents. And so breaking them down into smaller ones is more effective in my experience. So I like the fact that the tool is controlling that. I don't want to control the tool in that respect.
no, from my side, what I do is after a feature is complete, then I add that information to the README and change log. But like, for example, when it fixes a type sometimes, it just creates a markdown and says, I go to this file and fix this type. And I'm like, yeah, I know. Like I told you to fix it. I don't need that markdown file. And one thing that I do is I also do ask it to do meaningful comments every once in a while to the files and changes that it
Yeah,
did.
that's a good one. I like that.
So yeah, this is a StreamYard problem. It automatically sometimes removes my screen. I don't know why.
Oh, really? Has it just kicked you off?
Yeah, it just kicked my screen off. And so anyway, like this thing here really is great, but sometimes with that additional markdown, I just feel, okay, now I need to delete it. Now I need to like squash this comment. It's additional work, but I don't know. And I have my type of like commit messages explaining things. Also, like I want to keep it meaningful and manual as well.
Yeah, I like that one.
And lastly, I don't want to have unit tests right now because I think the tests needs to be run by the after the white code has happened, because this way we can understand better. But this is just me trying to be aware of what's going on. Of course, for example, with spec mode, it will ask us, do you want to write tests or do you want to keep it optional? Then again, I would say you can just take out the optional task by yourself and write the task by yourself as well. But this is where we are at right now. These are the 7 simple rules that we will follow. Maybe we will go higher or not. And we will take advantage of we will make Kiro feel that way. And we will also take advantage of the React best practices too.
Nice. Okay, so basically we've got MCP servers loaded and configured. We've got a Kiro Power ready to go. And we've got your steering documents, right?
Yes.
So, and we've got a deep understanding of our intent of what we're building. So I think, you know what? I think we're ready. I think we're as ready as we're ever going to be, right?
Yeah. Let's go. I will just kick off the prompt. Whatever I'm missing, just jump in and stop me or warn me, please.
Yep.
But like the first one, I will keep it more generic. I will say we are going to build a 2D board game with hexagon. Oh my God. Like these hexagons, also the shapes, name of the shapes, I always forget that.
So I tell you what, so this is interesting, right? So when Vibe coded this, right? So you carry on, right?
Yeah.
What I do is I found that I get it when I Vibe coded some experiments a few weeks ago on this.
Yeah.
I found that I got very different output when I did my initial prompt. Okay. And so what people can probably see in the prompt, there's a little picture, a little landscape thing there between the hash and the thing. And so what I discovered, okay, is if I put a prompt saying, I want to create a 2D board game, right? I want it to look like the picture. I got night and day better response.
Yeah. Even the simple drawings that helps.
Yeah, even a simple drawing. Yeah. But I mean, to be fair, I did start with a very simple drawing. It was like, actually, I'll show folks actually what this looks like. Because we have.
I will start with a different approach. I will say we will build a game working on web by using React and Read. So here's the situation. For React, we have documentation out of the box from Kiro itself, but for Read, we don't have it.
So hang on, so let's look. You did something there that I didn't. That was too quick for me. You use the hash.
Okay. Exactly.